I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, but here I am, staring down the reality of my life. My name is Dave, and I'm a 35-year-old husband who, until recently, believed he had a decent marriage. My wife, Sarah, and I have been together for over a decade. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but I always thought we'd make it through. We had our annual family camping trips, a tradition I cherished. But this year, it took a turn I never saw coming. It all started with little things. Sarah became distant, spending more time on her phone, and when I asked about it, she'd brush me off with half-hearted excuses. "Just work stuff," she'd say, rolling her eyes. I tried to tell myself it was just a phase, that maybe she was stressed about her job. But deep down, I felt something was off. The breaking point came during our annual camping trip to Pine Ridge Park. We'd been going there since we got married. The same worn-out cabin, the same family traditions, yet this time, a storm was brewing beneath the surface. I noticed Sarah acting strange even before. We left for the trip. She'd been packing her things in a rush, her mind clearly elsewhere. I thought it was just the excitement of being outdoors again. The day we arrived, everything felt normal at first. We set up the tent, made s'mores, and caught up with family. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. The way she laughed a little too loudly at the ranger's jokes bugged me. His name was Jack, a handsome guy in his 30s who seemed to take an extra interest in Sarah. It made my gut twist, but I tried to ignore it. After all, I had no real evidence, just a hunch that something was off. The real discovery came when I needed first aid supplies. My nephew had scraped his knee while running around the campsite, and I remembered that the ranger station had a first aid kit. I took a quick walk down the path leading to Jack's cabin, hoping to grab some band-aids and antiseptic. As I approached, I overheard their voices through the open door. I froze when I heard Sarah's laugh and then Jack's voice, low and intimate. The next words sent chills down my spine. "You're so beautiful, Sarah. I can't believe how lucky I am." I felt my heart drop. I stood there, rooted to the ground, my mind racing. I wanted to storm in, to confront them right then and there, but I couldn't move. I was paralyzed by shock. I eventually gathered enough courage to push the door open and stepped inside. What I found will forever be burned into my memory. Sarah, leaning against the table, her hand resting on Jack's, a flirtatious smile gracing her lips as he brushed his fingers along her arm. Time seemed to freeze as my world shattered in an instant. They turned to look at me, their expressions morphing from surprise to guilt in seconds. I didn't even know what to say. My heart was pounding, and I felt a mix of anger and disbelief. Sarah's eyes widened, and she stammered, "Dave, what are you doing here?" I wanted to scream. I wanted to hurl accusations at both of them, but I was struck by a wave of sadness instead. That sadness twisted into fury as I processed the scene before me. I managed to choke out a simple, "What hell is going on here?" Sarah's response was a lame attempt at a cover-up. "I was just asking Jack for some tips on hiking. We were talking about the trails." Her voice was shaky, and I could see the panic in her eyes. Jack shifted uncomfortably next to her, his bravado crumbling. The confrontation spiraled quickly. I could see the guilt etched on their faces, but Sarah, in her usual fashion, tried to turn it back on me. "You don't understand, Dave. It's not what it looks like. I swear." She pleaded, her voice rising in pitch. I could hardly hear her excuses over the thundering in my ears. I felt like a fool, a complete idiot for trusting her. The betrayal cut deep, and in that moment my heart hardened. What was supposed to be a fun family trip had turned into a nightmare. I felt a rush of emotions, anger, sadness, disbelief, all swirling together like a storm inside me. I took a step back, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders as I realized my wife, my partner, had been unfaithful. The emotional fallout started to set in. I couldn't focus on anything else but this crushing realization. The woman I loved, the one I thought was my best friend, had been lying to me. I had shared so many memories with her, and now it all felt tainted. As I walked away from that cabin, I felt lost. All I could think about was how to confront her when we returned to the campsite, how to make sense of this betrayal and what it meant for our future. It was clear that everything was about to change. The walk back to our campsite felt like traversing a minefield. Each step was heavy, as if I were dragging the weight of the world behind me. All I could think about was Sarah, what I had just seen, and the reality that my marriage was crumbling before my eyes. I could hardly process the betrayal. Every thought was jumbled. When I finally reached the tent, I found my sister-in-law, Lisa, and my nephew playing a game on the picnic table. They looked up and smiled, but I barely mustered a nod in return. Instead, I grabbed a beer from the cooler, my hands shaking slightly as I twisted off the cap. I needed something to calm my nerves, to dull the tumult of emotions raging inside me. Sarah returned a few moments later, having excused herself from Jack. I could see her bright smile falter as she approached. "Hey, where did you run off to?" she asked, feigning innocence. Her eyes darted to the cooler, then back to my face, and it was clear she sensed something was off. I took a deep breath, trying to hold it together. "We need to talk," I said flatly, my heart racing as I braced myself for the confrontation. I couldn't delay it any longer. I needed answers, and I deserved the truth. "Talk about what?" she asked, her tone shifting slightly. "About you and Jack," I responded, my voice steady but filled with underlying anger. The tension hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. Her expression shifted, panic creeping into her eyes. "What do you mean? I told you we were just talking." "Just talking." "Sarah, I saw you. You were all over each other in his cabin." I felt a rush of adrenaline as I let the words out. My heart pounded with each syllable. "Don't lie to me. I deserve better than that." Her face paled, and I could see her scrambling for words, trying to regain control of the situation. I didn't mean for it to happen. It was just a moment, I swear." "A moment?" I echoed incredulously, the betrayal cutting deeper with each of her pathetic excuses. "You're telling me it was just a moment? You were flirting with him. You told me you loved me, Sarah. How could you do this?" Tears welled in her eyes, and for a moment I felt a flicker of sympathy, but it was quickly extinguished by the anger boiling inside me. "I was just confused. I don't know what happened," she cried, her voice rising as she reached out to touch my arm. I flinched away from her, feeling a surge of disgust. "You don't get to act like this is my fault. You made your choice, and it's clear where your loyalties lie." "I love you, Dave. Please don't say that." "Do you?" "Because it doesn't look like it to me." I shot back, my voice now a low growl. "You were all smiles and giggles with him while I was out looking for first aid supplies for our nephew. What kind of marriage is that?" That seemed to hit her hard. She opened her mouth to respond, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, she just stood there, tears spilling down her cheeks. I felt no sympathy. It was hard to muster any when the betrayal was so fresh. All the love I had for her was being overshadowed by anger, sadness, and disbelief. I needed to take a step back. I turned sharply and walked away from the campsite, away from the family. I couldn't bear to look at her or anyone else right now. I needed space, time to process everything that had just happened. I wandered through the trees, away from the laughter and the warmth of family, feeling more alone than I ever had before. I found a spot near the lake where I could sit and breathe. The water was calm, and for a brief moment it gave me a sense of peace. But that peace was fleeting, as thoughts of Sarah and Jack invaded my mind again. I clenched my fists, feeling the frustration boil over. I thought back to all those years we had spent together, the good times, the laughter, the moments that had once made me believe we were solid. I felt shattered, like pieces of glass scattered across the forest floor. I couldn't understand how it had come to this. Eventually, I calmed down enough to gather my thoughts. I knew I needed a plan, a way to confront the betrayal with clarity and purpose. I couldn't just let this slide. I needed to make her understand how deeply she had hurt me, and I needed to reclaim my self-respect. As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the lake, I felt a flicker of determination ignite within me. I wouldn't let her lie to me anymore. I wouldn't be the fool who overlooked the signs or brushed aside the pain she had caused. I needed to think about my future and what I wanted. There were too many unanswered questions lingering in the air, and I was ready to confront them head-on. Returning to the campsite, I was met with the sounds of my family enjoying the fire, but I felt like an outsider looking in. Sarah was there, her head buried in her phone, and I could see Jack off to the side, pretending to be busy with the last of the cleanup. I took a deep breath, preparing myself for the confrontation that was still to come. I wasn't done with this yet, not by a long shot. Night had fallen, and the crackling campfire illuminated the faces of my family, creating a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed inside me. I sat there quietly, nursing my drink, pretending to engage in the conversation swirling around me while my mind was miles away. Every laugh, every cheerful exchange felt like a punch to the gut. I couldn't shake off the image of Sarah and Jack together, the way she had looked at him with that stupid, flirtatious smile. After an hour of forced smiles and polite conversation, I knew it was time to confront Sarah again. I needed to put an end to her evasions. I stood up, my resolve hardening as I walked over to her, trying to ignore the way my heart raced with anger and hurt. "Can we talk?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with urgency. She looked up from her phone, surprise written all over her face. Right now, can it wait until tomorrow?" "No, it can't wait," I replied, my patience wearing thin. I gestured toward the edge of the campsite, away from the fire and the prying ears of our family. Reluctantly, she followed me, her expression shifting from confusion to apprehension. We moved a few feet away under the cover of trees where the shadows swallowed us whole. "Dave, please," she started, her voice shaky. "I'm really sorry about what you saw, but it was a mistake. I didn't mean to, a mistake." I interrupted, incredulity seeping into my tone. "What exactly was a mistake, Sarah?" "Flirting with him. Spending time in his cabin. I saw how you looked at him. You enjoyed every second of it." "Can't we talk about this later?" she pleaded, her eyes wide with fear. "No, we can't. I'm done with excuses and half-truths. You need to explain to me why I shouldn't just walk away from you and this entire mess right now." She hesitated, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I was trying to have fun. You know how stressful life has been. I thought a little flirting wouldn't hurt. It was just harmless. I didn't think about it like that." "Harmless?" I yelled, my anger boiling over. "You call what you did harmless? You were in another man's cabin, Sarah, touching him, laughing at his terrible jokes. You're telling me that was harmless?" I wasn't thinking straight. You know how you get when you're stressed. I just wanted to escape for a moment, to feel desired again. She finally admitted, her voice cracking. "Desired? Is that all this is about? You felt unappreciated, so you decided to throw away our entire marriage for some attention from the park ranger." She shifted uncomfortably, tears glistening in her eyes as she bit her lip. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I love you, Dave, I do. It just happened, okay? It was a stupid moment of weakness." "Love?" I spat. "Is that what you call it? Because it doesn't feel like love to me. It feels like betrayal. It feels like complete disregard for everything we've built together." I know," she pleaded, desperation creeping into her voice. "I'm sorry, I'll make it right, I swear. Just don't leave me. I need you, Dave." Her words struck a chord, but I wasn't ready to go down that path yet. "You need me after what you did. You think I can just forgive this? It's not that easy." "I'll do anything to fix this. Just tell me what you need. I'll change, I promise." "We can work through this together," she begged, stepping closer. I took a step back, creating space between us. "You say that now, but how can I trust you? How can I believe that you won't just do this again? This was not just a slip-up, this was a choice you made." She opened her mouth to argue, but the words fell silent as she looked into my eyes. I could see the realization hit her that I was serious about this, that I wasn't going to back down. "Dave, please," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I need some time to think," I finally said, my voice steady but filled with pain. "I need to figure out what I want. I can't keep pretending everything's fine." Her expression shifted from desperation to fear, and I could see the wheels turning in her mind. "But we can't end like this," she said, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Sarah. You've broken my trust. This isn't just going to blow over." I turned away and walked back toward the fire, leaving her standing there in the darkness. I could hear her soft sobs behind me, but I couldn't turn back. I needed to gather my thoughts and find a way to navigate this overwhelming situation. As I rejoined my family, laughter continued to echo around the campsite, but I couldn't join in. I felt like an outsider, stuck in a nightmare I never asked to be part of. Each joke and cheerful voice grated on my nerves. I was trapped in my own thoughts, replaying the confrontation over and over, trying to absorb everything she had said. The night wore on, and eventually I excused myself to retreat to the tent. I laid on the air mattress, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on my chest. I stared at the ceiling of the tent, wondering how I had gotten here, what I was going to do next. The decision loomed over me like a dark cloud. Should I try to work things out, or should I cut my losses and walk away? I knew I needed clarity, but for now, all I could do was close my eyes and hope that tomorrow would bring some answers. The dawn broke with a promise of a new day, but the morning light felt harsh against the reality I was facing. I woke up to the sounds of birds chirping and the distant laughter of my family starting their day. I lay there, staring at the tent ceiling, wrestling with my thoughts and the mess my life had become. Sarah had crawled into the sleeping bag beside me in the middle of the night, hoping to offer comfort. I could feel her warmth, but it only made my heartache worse. It felt wrong to be so close to someone who had betrayed me so profoundly. I rolled away, needing space, and tried to block out the memories of last night's confrontation. There was a part of me that still loved her. We had shared so many memories, built a life together, and had dreams for the future. But now all of that felt tainted by the affair. It was hard to reconcile the woman I loved with the person who could so easily cross that line. After a few moments of silence, I heard her stir beside me. "Dave," she whispered, her voice filled with uncertainty. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. The silence stretched between us like a chasm, and I could feel the tension hanging in the air. Eventually, Sarah sighed and got up, slipping out of the tent to join the others. I stayed behind, buried deep in my conflicting thoughts. The morning's activities were set in motion, with my family preparing breakfast and getting ready for a hike. I could hear laughter and cheerful shouts, but I felt like a ghost, drifting through the motions without truly participating. I forced myself to join them, trying to put on a brave face, but it felt like a mask I could barely wear. "Hey, you okay?" my sister Melissa asked, noticing my distant demeanor. "Yeah, just tired," I replied, forcing a smile. But I wasn't just tired. I was emotionally drained. As we gathered for breakfast, Sarah sat across the table from me, an uncomfortable silence between us. She reached for the pancakes, and I could see her hands tremble slightly, a telltale sign of her anxiety. I couldn't bear to look at her directly. I focused on the food, eating mechanically while the weight of the situation loomed over us. After breakfast, my family decided to go on a hike to clear their heads and enjoy the beauty of the park while it was still morning. I knew I should participate, but the thought of spending more time with Sarah and Jack made my stomach churn. I needed to think, to be alone with my thoughts, so I opted out. "Are you sure, Dave?" my father asked, concern etched on his face. "Yeah, I just need some time. I'll stay back," I replied, trying to sound casual. As they headed off, Sarah lingered for a moment, her eyes searching mine for some sign of hope. I turned away, not wanting to give her the satisfaction of knowing how much she still affected me. When they finally left, I felt a mix of relief and guilt. I wandered the campsite, my mind racing. I needed to make a decision, and I needed to make it soon. I started pacing along the trails, the beauty of nature surrounding me, but I couldn't appreciate it. I was lost in my thoughts, thinking of my marriage and whether it was worth saving or if it was time to walk away. Eventually, I found a quiet spot by the lake, the water reflecting the trees and sky above. Sitting on a fallen log, I took a deep breath, trying to clear my mind. I thought about what Sarah had said, her claims of love, her apologies. Could I trust her again? The question gnawed at me. I could feel my heart breaking all over again. The memories flooded back, the vacations, the inside jokes, the support we provided each other during tough times. It felt like a betrayal of those memories to think about leaving. But the hurt was still fresh, the wound still raw. Suddenly, I heard footsteps approaching. I looked up to see Jack coming down the trail. My immediate instinct was to get up and leave, but he spotted me. "Hey, Dave," he called out, his tone awkward and perhaps a little nervous. "Jack," I replied tersely, not bothering to hide my disdain. I just wanted to talk," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "About what? How you decided to cheat with my wife?" I shot back, the anger rising again. He raised his hands defensively. "I didn't plan for it to happen, man. It was a mistake. A mistake that hurt me and my family." "You think that's just going to go away?" I interrupted. I know, and I'm really sorry. I never meant to come between you two, he stammered. It's too late for that, Jack. You crossed a line. He paused, looking down at his feet. I know, I just wanted to say that I didn't know she was married at first. I thought she was just someone I could talk to. It escalated. I realize now how wrong it was, but I'm not the one who's going to fix this. I glared at him, my heart racing. You're right about that. You're not the one who's going to fix anything. I don't want to make things worse. I didn't want this to happen, Dave. I just got caught up in the moment. You have to believe me, he said, desperation creeping into his voice. Believe you? Why should I? I scoffed. You knew damn well what you were doing. We stood there in silence, tension thickening the air. I could feel the anger bubbling beneath the surface, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. Jack was not the problem. He was only a symptom of a larger issue in my marriage with Sarah. Just stay away from her, I finally said, my voice low but firm. If you care about this family at all, you'll respect our marriage until I figure out what I'm going to do. Jack nodded, visibly shaken. I will. I'm really sorry, Dave. With that, he turned and walked back down the trail, leaving me alone with my thoughts once again. I needed to talk to Sarah, to confront her again. I needed to know if she truly wanted to salvage our marriage, or if this was just the beginning of the end. As I made my way back to the campsite, I felt a sense of determination growing inside of me. I wouldn't let her deception define whatever was left of my life. I deserved answers, and I was ready to demand them, no matter how painful it might be. It was time to finally confront Sarah and decide what the future would hold for both of us. By the time I returned to the campsite, my family was still out hiking, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the lingering resentment towards Sarah and Jack. I took a moment to gather myself, mentally preparing for the confrontation that lay ahead. As I sat at the picnic table, I could feel the tension in the air, a palpable reminder of how things had shifted overnight. I wasn't sure how long I could hold on to my anger without allowing it to consume me, but I knew I couldn't let that happen. I needed to be clear-headed for this conversation. I took a few deep breaths and tried to center myself. The sight of our tent, so familiar and once so comforting, now felt like a cage. As the sun began its descent, casting a warm glow over the campsite, I spotted Sarah returning. She was alone, and the moment our eyes met, the weight of our situation settled heavily between us. Her smile faltered as she approached, a nervous energy emanating from her. Hey, she said softly, her voice shaking slightly. Hey, I replied, my tone measured yet firm. I'm glad you're back. Can we talk? Yeah, we need to, I said, motioning for her to sit down. She hesitated for a moment, then took a seat across from me. I could see the anxiety swirling in her eyes, and I couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness for what had been lost. But that sadness was quickly overshadowed by the anger I still felt. David, just let me talk first, I interrupted, my voice steady. I've had a lot of time to think today, and I need you to listen. She nodded, her lips pressing together in a thin line. I want to be clear about something. What happened between you and Jack wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice. A choice you made knowing full well what we had. You knew the vows we took and what they meant, and you threw them away for what? A little fun, a moment of attention. I know, she whispered, her voice trembling. I was stupid. I didn't think it would go that far. But it did, Sarah, I said, my frustration bubbling to the surface. You shattered our trust. You hurt me in ways I can't even begin to describe. I can't just move on as if nothing happened. I need to know why you did it. I felt neglected, Dave, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. With work and everything, I felt alone. And when I met Jack, he seemed so different. He listened to me. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Different, so you decided to cheat. That's your excuse. I leaned forward, feeling the anger flare up again. You could have talked to me. You could have come to me and said you were feeling neglected. You didn't have to seek validation in another man. I know. I didn't think I would hurt you like this, she said, tears brimming in her eyes. Do you think I can just forgive you because you're sorry, that I can pretend this did happen? I shook my head, feeling the weight of her betrayal crush down on me. You say you love me, but how can I believe that when you were so quick to share your affection with someone else? I'll do anything to prove it to you, she pleaded, her voice breaking. I don't want to lose you, Dave. I realize now how much I need you in my life. I'm so sorry. I don't know if that's enough anymore, Sarah, I said, feeling the ache in my chest deepen. The love I had for you feels tainted, like I can't trust anything anymore. You've put me in a position where I have to protect myself, and I don't know how to move past this. Please, she begged, reaching across the table to take my hand. I flinched at her touch, pulling away instinctively. I know I made a grave mistake, but I want to rebuild our trust. I want to show you that I can be the wife you deserve. I looked into her eyes, searching for something, anything, that would give me the slightest glimmer of hope. But how? How can we move forward from this? I need concrete steps, Sarah. I can't just pretend it didn't happen. She took a deep breath, wiping away her tears. I'll go to counseling if that's what it takes. I'll do whatever you want. I'll be open and transparent about everything. No more secrets. Counseling, I echoed, considering the idea. It had worked for others, hadn't it? But there was still a part of me that felt skeptical. And what if I can't ever trust you again? What if I can't get past this? What then? I'll give you all the time you need, she said, her voice steadying, confidence creeping back in. But I need you to try. I need you to fight for us. I know it won't be easy, but I'm willing to work for it. I don't want to lose you, Dave. I leaned back in my chair, processing her words. There was a part of me that wanted to believe her, to think that we could somehow salvage this relationship. But then I remembered the hurt, the betrayal, and the image of her, with Jack, that replayed in my mind like a haunting film reel. I need time to think, I finally said, my voice steady but filled with uncertainty. I can't promise anything right now. I need to figure out if I can even trust you again. Okay, she replied softly, her eyes filled with understanding and sadness. I'll give you space, but please know that I'm here, ready to fight for us whenever you're ready. As Sarah got up and walked away, I remained seated, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on me once again. I didn't have all the answers, and I didn't know what the future held. All I knew was that this was a turning point, a moment where I had to decide whether to fight for my marriage or to let go. The sun began to set, casting a golden hue across the campsite. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I had a long road ahead of me, and the choice I would make could shape the rest of my life. The thought was daunting, but one thing was clear: I wouldn't make a decision lightly. I needed to understand what I truly wanted and what would give me peace in the end. As the night closed in, I felt a sense of resolve forming within me. Whatever happened next, I would face it on my own terms. I needed to reclaim my power in this situation, no matter how painful it would be, and I was ready to begin that journey. The night crept in, bringing with it a heavy blanket of uncertainty. I sat at the picnic table, staring into the flickering flames of the campfire, lost in thought. The warmth of the fire was comforting, yet it couldn't touch the coldness settling in my heart. I was at a crossroads, and I had to choose the path I would take. As the stars began to twinkle overhead, I was reminded of the countless nights Sarah and I had spent beneath this same sky, laughing and talking about our dreams. Those memories felt so distant now, overshadowed by the betrayal that had erupted between us like a flash flood, washing away everything I had once cherished. The sound of laughter from my family echoed in the background, but I was no longer part of that joyful camaraderie. I felt isolated, an island in a sea of happiness, and it hurt more than I cared to admit. I had to gather my thoughts to sort through the chaos Sarah had created. I couldn't allow my emotions to dictate my actions. The following morning, I decided it was time to have one last conversation with Sarah before we headed home. We needed to set the foundation for whatever would come next, whether it was rebuilding our relationship or starting anew apart. I found her sitting on a log by the lake, her silhouette framed by the rising sun. She looked lost in thought, her expression a mixture of hope and fear. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I needed to say. "Can we talk?" I asked, approaching her slowly. She looked up, her eyes brightening for a moment before the worry returned. "Yes, of course." We settled on the log, the lake reflecting the soft morning light. I could hear the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore, a stark contrast to the turmoil inside me. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," I began, my voice steady but contemplative. "About us, about what happened and what we both want moving forward." Sarah nodded, her eyes searching mine, eager for any sign of hope. "I want to make this work, Dave. I want us to be okay again." "Here's the thing," I said, trying to remain calm. I think you need to understand the gravity of what you did. This isn't just about getting over a rough patch. I need to know that you're committed to changing, not just for me, but for yourself. We can't keep going in circles, pretending everything is fine. I promise I'll do whatever it takes, she replied earnestly. I'll go to counseling, I'll be open and honest, I'll work on my own issues that led to this. That's a start, I acknowledged. But I also need time and space to process everything. I can't just overlook what happened. Trust is built, not given, and right now I don't trust you. Her expression fell, but she quickly regained her composure. I understand. I know it won't happen overnight, and I will respect your need for space. Just know that I'm willing to fight for us. I took a deep breath, feeling a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I think we should consider taking some time apart after this trip. I need to figure out what I really want and how I feel about all this. I can't decide anything while we're still in the same space. I can accept that, she said quietly. If it's what you need, I'll support it, but please don't lose sight of the love we've shared. I want to rebuild that. I know, I replied, my voice softening. I want to believe we can, but it's going to take work from both of us. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it's going to be a long road. As we sat there in silence, the sun rose higher in the sky, casting a warm glow over the lake. I could feel the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders, but I also felt a sense of clarity. I was taking control of my life, and whatever happened next would be for my own peace of mind. I want to try, but I also need to protect myself, I said finally. I can't just jump back into things as if nothing happened. I hope you can understand that. Sarah nodded, tears glistening in her eyes again. I do. I'll respect your decision no matter how hard it is. I just hope that one day we can find each other again. As painful as it was to separate, I knew it was the right choice for both of us. Relationships aren't just built on love. They're built on trust and respect, and right now, those foundations were cracked. After a long moment, I got up, extending my hand to help her up. We walked back toward the campsite, side by side but with a distance between us, a reminder of the work we had to do. The trip home was quiet, each of us lost in our thoughts. I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. This wasn't how I had envisioned our relationship ending, but I also knew it was the start of something new. Whether it would lead to reconciliation or a clean break, only time would tell. In the end, I learned that love sometimes isn't enough to hold a relationship together. Trust has to be earned, and it's okay to prioritize your own well-being. Life is about choices, and I was finally making mine. I stepped into the uncertain future with my head held high, ready to face whatever came next, determined to find my own peace, one way or another.